If you turn to HGTV on any given day, you'll probably see these two and other similar shows where real estate investors take properties that are trashed and bare bones and turn them into amazing, picture-ready, move-in home. And by doing that, they somehow manage to turn a profit after major renovations. But how come normal people like you and me, when we go to buy a house, we have to pay full price? Whether you're a renter or you already own a home, the average American moves about every 5 years. So the likelihood that you're gonna move in the next year or two is probably pretty high. What's going on, guys? My name is Austin Zabak, and in today's video, I'm gonna be sharing with you a hack on how anybody can save a ton of money buying their next home. And you don't have to have any real estate experience at all or a bunch of cash in order to do so. Have you ever been driving down the road and you passed one of those yellow or white, super unprofessional looking signs that say something along the lines of, "We buy houses cash," or "We'll pay fast cash for your property"? If you have, then you've probably wondered who in the world is putting up those signs. And what do they even mean? I mean, what is the actual purpose behind a sign like that? And do homeowners actually call the number written on those unprofessional looking signs written in black magic marker to sell their house? So in the world of real estate, those unprofessional looking signs that you see when you drive down the road are actually what they call bandit signs. And the people on the other end of the bandit sign are actually what people would call a wholesaler. Wholesalers are basically a middleman who are in between a seller that is in a distressed situation, and they're connecting that seller to an actual end buyer who is going to buy and renovate the property. Again, similar to the TV shows we talked about a little while ago. Now, contrary to what those signs are actually promoting, wholesalers are not typically buying the property. They're basically saying that they'll agree to purchase the property in cash at a discounted price, and then in 30 or 45 days, what they do is they turn around and they sell the rights to that contract to an actual end investor. Many people think finding a good deal on a house is extremely hard, it takes a ton of time, and many people think that you have to have a bunch of real estate experience to actually find a piece of real estate or a house to actually buy at a discount. But in today's video, we're obviously going to talk about how anybody and everybody, okay, even you watching this video right now, can save up to $50,000 on your next home purchase. There are 4 key things that you're going to need to do to be on your way to having a perfect dream home just like HGTV that even Tariq El Moussa would be proud of, all while saving a bunch of money. The first step to saving $50,000 on your next home is to know what you're looking for. There are really 3 key main factors to keep in mind here, and the first one is location. Location is a pretty big factor in general when buying a home, but it is even more of a big factor when you're looking for a home that you can actually save a bunch of money on. And people obviously want to live in neighborhoods with good infrastructure, shopping centers, schools, hospitals, a good job market, and a low crime rate, and a million other things. Okay, the next key factor is to make sure that you buy a property below market value. You're probably like, okay, Austin, but how do I even know what market value even is? If I don't know what market value is, then how do I know if I'm buying it below market value? First things first, just because you looked up the property on Zillow and you saw this Zestimate, that does not exactly mean that that Zestimate is market value 100% of the time. There are a ton of different ways to determine what market value is on a property. I'll make sure that I leave my favorite way, a link in the description down below, with a free trial so you can go check it out if you decide that you want to save $50,000 on your next home. A little bonus tip here is that when you're looking for a home below market value, try to look at people a little bit as well. What different people and what demographic of people would be likely to sell their property at a discount? A lot of times it can be things like a foreclosure or a divorce or a loss of a job or maybe even a death in a family. And for those reasons, people will be more likely to sell their property at below market value. And the tool that I talked about just a minute ago also has a list of all of those different scenarios, so you can make sure to check that out after the video. The third thing that we're going to look for here is to make sure that the home is in sound condition.
You're like, wait a minute, Austin, I thought we were looking for a home below market value. The likelihood that it is in sound condition is probably not very high.
You don't necessarily need a home that's completely beat up or 100% trashed in order to save a lot of money or get a good deal. There's a lot of people out there that have a home that is in pretty good condition overall, but for whatever reason, they just need to sell. And maybe the home's a bit outdated or it needs some carpet and some paint, But I'm not telling you here to take on a major renovation if you've never done that before. The main things to keep in mind here are just to make sure that it is structurally sound. I always like to make sure that it has a good foundation, a good roof, a good air conditioner, and things that would cost a lot of money to actually replace. It is really important to know which repairs you can afford to make and what repairs you cannot afford to make. And we're gonna talk about that in just a minute, so just stay tuned. And just keep in mind here that too good to be true deals are just that. Sometimes they are actually just too good to be true. More often than not, those properties end up being a way bigger headache than the discount is even worth. So in a nutshell, not every property below market value ends up fitting the criteria of what will work for the hack that we're talking about. So the second thing you're gonna wanna do is go ahead and have a plan. And I always recommend having a plan A and having a plan B. And no, I don't mean that kind of plan B. Construction contractors and real estate in general have a funny way of running into delays and issues. Having a plan B allows you to always have a little bit of cushion. So if something were to go wrong or a new variable were to come into play, you have enough cushion to still make the desired profit you were looking for. A plan will really ultimately just keep you on track and keep you focused to achieving the goal. When having a plan, you always want to make sure you include your budget, your ideal timeline, and an end goal, so you can accurately lay out your scope of work from start to finish. Now just keep in mind that your budget might actually be pretty simple if the property that you're purchasing doesn't actually need a ton of work. Just make sure that you've allocated the appropriate expenses of which it'll cost to renovate the property, regardless of the scope of the amount of work it is going to take. This includes hiring a contractor if you need one, depending on, again, the size and the scope of the project. Also, it'll include the cost of the actual stuff itself, the utilities, and any insurance or anything like that that you'll need. And when doing this, I understand that you might not know exactly what numbers you need to buy it at and how much it actually costs to renovate a property, depending on the scope of the actual amount of work, so we're gonna cover that. There are really 3 different levels of renovating a property. The first level is really just a lipstick renovation, is what I like to call it. And a lipstick renovation will typically cost you anywhere from $10 to $15 a square foot, and that is really a lot of times just like carpet and paint and maybe a couple of ceiling fans. The second level of renovation is where you're really doing quite a bit. You're doing the kitchen typically, you're doing the bathrooms, a lot of fixtures, and pretty much carpet, paint, and maybe even a couple of other things. And a lot of times, that kind of renovation will cost about $20 to $25. And fully renovating a property where you're actually moving walls around and you're restructuring the property entirely will a lot of times cost anywhere from $35 to $45 a square foot. And of course, make sure you do a little bit of research on whatever market it is that you're planning on purchasing in, and maybe even talk to a contractor or two before you actually buy a property. That way you know for sure that the numbers I just mentioned are close to being accurate. Setting a timeline for your project is also extremely crucial. So how long does it really take to flip or to renovate a property, and how long does it take depending on the level of renovation that you're doing? Typically, a lipstick project will only take you about a week or 2. A lot of times, if you're doing more than that and you're in the intermediate level, it'll typically take anywhere from about 1 month to maybe 2 months. And if you're doing a full remodel, moving walls around and doing everything we just mentioned, then a lot of times it can take anywhere from 2 to 3 months and sometimes even longer than that. Just make sure when you're setting the project timeline that you allow enough time to make room for any error or anything that might actually take a little longer than you anticipated. Planning really makes things a lot easier when you're doing this, okay? So just make sure that you take just a little bit of time and create a plan. I promise you'll be a lot happier that you did. The third step is actually looking at the finances. And I know we talked about how you can do this without a ton of cash, and that is in fact 100% true. Because you've probably been wondering up until this point, Austin, where the heck is all this money gonna come from? You've been talking a lot about renovating a property and doing all these different things, but I clicked on the video because I don't have a ton of cash. Lucky for you, there are several options available. There are actually loans out there specifically designed for flipping properties. And I know you're not flipping it, you're just buying it to move into, save a bunch of money, and build some equity, but these loan options will still be available for you anyways. A couple of options are private money loans, hard money loans, business lines of credit, and a home equity loan. And when you're comparing different loans, you just want to make sure to always compare the different interest rates and the different loan requirements. Now, I personally think hard money loans or private money loans, they're basically one and the same, are the best for this type of situation. A hard money loan is a specific type of asset-based loan financing through which a borrower receives funds secured by real property. Maybe I didn't mention a bit ago, but you might have been wondering if you can do this without having phenomenal credit. In a nutshell, a hard money or private money loan is where they're actually looking at the house more than they are the borrower's credit. So you don't even necessarily have to have good credit initially, although you're going to want to in a little while, because you will end up refinancing, which we'll talk about in just a minute. A hard money or private money loan typically ends up being a little bit higher in interest, but you're only going to have this loan for probably about 60 to 90 days. And a lot of times these hard or private money lenders will actually lend for the renovation cost as well. What you'll do after you finish the renovation is you'll go and you'll apply for an FHA or a conventional loan. And what that'll do is it'll allow you to refinance into the new loan, pay off the hard money loan. That way you only ended up paying the high interest rate for a very short period of time. Then now you will typically be locked into potentially a 30-year fixed mortgage or something like that, which is very common and what you would have done anyways had you gone and paid full price for the property. Okay, now the moment you've been waiting for, and that is the fourth and final step to the hack of saving up to $50,000 on your next home. And that is, you bought the house, you got the hard or private money loan, you found the right property, everything like that. You're ready to actually renovate the darn thing. And a couple of quick tips here to find reputable contractors. Depending on how much you actually are going to do to the property, you might be able to do that yourself. But if you end up needing a little bit of help, you just want to find somebody that knows what they're doing. Depending on what actually needs to be fixed in the property, this could include a general contractor to manage the entire project, or you could actually go and just get subcontractors, which would be like a painter or a roofer or an electrician or somebody that comes in and does different things around the house. When looking and hiring contractors, the only thing I would do is make sure that you look for licenses and references to make sure that they're bonded, they're insured, and they actually have experience in what it is that you're about to let them do on your home. And just make sure, of course, that they can complete the work in your allocated timeline and your budget. That way you don't go over on time or over on budget. Again, that is a pretty big deal when making sure that you actually end up saving money. As you begin the work, you just want to keep in mind that you are going to be paying what they call carrying costs when you have that hard or private money loan. And those carrying costs for the couple of months that you have the hard money loan will be higher than normal. You'll be paying a little bit more in interest. You'll be paying taxes and insurance and things like that. So just be aware of all of that. That way your project timeline doesn't get extended way out. That being said, all you really have to do is finish your renovation, go to the bank, get a refinance loan to pay off the hard money loan, and then you will have the equity or the savings in the property that you see so much on HGTV, except for you're going to get to live in it yourself, and you're going to get to sleep well at night knowing that you saved up to potentially $50,000 on a home that you would have paid full price for to do work that, in all honesty, is quite a bit of fun and not really that hard. Okay, in order to determine how much money you actually saved on your property, you're going to want to find the ARV of the property. The ARV is essentially just the after repaired value, as we talked about in the beginning of the video. It is what the property is now worth, or what it will be worth when the property is fully completed. Then what you're going to do is you're going to subtract the purchase cost of the property, aka how much you paid for the property itself. So let's just say the after repaired value is $300,000 and what you paid was $200,000 for the property. What you're going to do after that is you're going to subtract the cost of repairs and renovations. And for the purpose of this example, we'll say that the repairs and renovations were $30,000. All you're going to do now is subtract the high interest holding costs from your hard money loan. In this case scenario, assuming we held it for about 90 days at 12% interest with a point on top, we're going to assume that it was about $8,400 to keep that loan for about 90 days. And without getting too much into anything else, because a lot of the other things you would have had you went and gone and purchased a full price property anyways, we're going to assume that your total cost in this case scenario was about $238,400. But your house is worth $300,000, meaning you saved about $61,600. Now you can go refinance, get a conventional loan at a low interest rate or an FHA loan at a low interest and low down payment. You can pull money back out and boom, you have a bunch of equity or a bunch of savings. With the 4 key components that we just talked about, you're ready to go out and save a ton of money on your next home. That is what I like to call the secret hack that not a lot of people are talking about, okay? All really the people that are doing it are investors and people that you thought that you could never really be like. But the reality of it is, anybody can do what we're talking about, okay? So Again, I really appreciate you for watching the video. Drop into the comment section below what you would like to see in a future video and whether or not you liked the video I made today. And also, that link in the description down below is the software that I personally love to use when I'm looking for properties that are at a discount or when I'm searching for different properties in a good area or really whatever it is that you're trying to do. There will be a free trial, so definitely just check it out. And until then, I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.